Starting and running a business is hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Whether you're an established business owner or thinking about starting a side hustle to earn extra income, I am here to teach you how to show up as your unfiltered self, level up your business, and thrive as a mompreneur. Let's embrace the chaos and start enjoying the journey together. I'm Amy Traw, and you're listening to the Motivated Mompreneur podcast. Welcome back into the Motivated Mompreneur podcast. Today, I am joined by Megan, and I'm really excited for this conversation. She's a podcast host. She's just an incredible woman with an incredible story, and we are talking about all things perfectionism and just living our best life, getting that fulfillment out of our careers. So buckle up because it's going to be a wild ride, but I'm so excited for it. And with that being said, Megan, welcome in to the podcast.
Oh my goodness, Amy, thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute pleasure, and I'm equally as excited to be here with you today.
Yes. So tell our listeners more about yourself, who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Oh goodness, that's always such a loaded question because I will be honest with you, Amy, this year has been a little bit of an identity shift for me. For the last 10 years, I have really associated my identity with being in corporate sales, where someone were to ask me on the street, what did I do for a living? And I would be able to confidently say, you know what, I'm in sales. But as of this year, I have experienced a lot of change in my life. And considering the fact that your podcast is really geared towards a lot of moms, one big identity shift that I'm currently undergoing right now is the fact that I'm about to become a mom in just a matter of weeks at this point. I mean, at the time that this podcast is releasing, I'm probably going to have a baby in my arms. So it's really, really soon, which is extremely exciting. But to kind of wrap up who I am today, I am a podcast host. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a soon-to-be mom, and I am honestly figuring out a new way of life that is about to be like the most transformative thing that I've ever been able to experience so far, because I've been able to take my corporate experience and really apply it into more of an entrepreneurial setting. So with that, I've been able to create a podcast called StartHer, and I'm building out a business to be able to support or to be able to financially bring in an income for my family while also be present for my new son.
Oh my gosh, so good. And it is such a loaded question, isn't it? Like, who are you? Who am I? You know, I think as women, we get stuck in these identity crises because what we thought we had in mind for the trajectory of our life can be so totally different to the reality of it. I mean, I know for myself, I thought I had it all figured out. You know, on paper, I had the degree, I had the job, I had all of the things. Now, you know, similar story with you. You come from a background in corporate. So what did that identity shift look like? Like, how did you know, okay, you know what, this doesn't feel aligned anymore? How did you navigate that?
Well, it's so interesting because I've had a couple moments in my life that really have been those aha moments that I'm not really on the path that I'm supposed to be. And even prior to hopping into corporate, once I graduated college, I actually went into the entertainment industry where I was working in film and television on production sets. And I will say, Amy, to this day, that was probably one of my most fun and enjoyable jobs I've ever had. But what happened was I started to look at the women at the top, and I started to really analyze what did their lives look like. We were spending at minimum 12-hour days on our feet. And that's, again, at minimum. And their life was completely surrounded by their jobs. And immediately, even though I was having so much fun, I knew that I ultimately one day wanted to be a mom. I wanted to have a family. I really wanted to have a well-rounded life. And I didn't want my entire identity to be surrounded solely on my job. So I had almost like this mini midlife crisis when I was in my early 20s. And I really had to take a step back to really examine, okay, what is it that I like about this? And what can I do to apply some of this moving forward? And really what I realized is that I just loved being surrounded by people. I loved being able to hear their stories and connect. So naturally, I was able to just transition into sales. And I will be honest, I had a great career. I was climbing the corporate ladder. I was making great money. I was able to buy a house and go on vacations and establish a savings. But there was always something that was missing. And there was that voice inside of me that this can't be it. I mean, every single time I would be able to get a new position, make some more money, it just didn't feel the way that I thought it was going to feel. And I really had success tied to titles and monetary gains, but it really wasn't doing anything for me. So there was that voice inside of me that said, there's something more here. You're meant for more. But and when that was happening, I had all these different ideas of what I could be doing. However, I wasn't letting myself explore them because I thought that I had to have everything figured out. I thought that I had to have my business plan. I had to know exactly what it was going to look like. It had to be perfect. But so the perfectionism was really preventing me from exploring this little voice inside of my head. And over the last 3 years, actually, my first one was in COVID. I went through my first layoff. And I dabbled in a little bit of entrepreneurism, but I will be honest with you that I got scared and I went back into corporate because I thought it was safer. I had the 401k, I had the benefits, I had the good predictable income. But then again, I experienced another layoff earlier this year while pregnant. And I realized then that this corporate thing that I thought was safe really wasn't as safe as I thought it was. So I had the opportunity to either go back into corporate like I did in 2020, or really take the bet on myself and go all in on my business with StartHer. And that's what I've done.
Oh my gosh, so many things you said just resonate. You are betting on yourself now. And like isn't it terrifying yet exciting all at the same time? Because it's you versus you. And I think as society goes, they've taught us and we've become jaded to think that working for corporate, working in a 9 to 5 job, that's the safe option. When in reality, they can let you go for any time or at any time for any reason, no questions asked. So I love that you share that part of your journey because that's the reality of it. I think so many times we tell ourselves stories and we hold ourselves back and ignore those feelings that we have inside that, you know what, I'm meant for more. This isn't fulfilling. And yeah, it's really not as safe working in a 9 to 5 as we think it is.
It's not. And what I thought was really interesting is that I actually experienced this layoff right after telling them about my pregnancy. I thought that being able to tell them about my pregnancy would give me a little bit of security because there were writings on the wall that things were happening. But I definitely thought that I was going to be moved into a different position because I was hitting my numbers and I was the top performer. But it just shows you that even if you are pregnant, like there's no protections out there. You have to take control of yourself. And instead of choosing to think that life is happening to you, I really believe that life is happening for you. And that was really my, like the universe, God's way, whatever you believe it was telling me that this was my time to really go after what I wanted to be able to better my future and my family's future. So this is what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I love your figure it out mentality. Like, okay, these are the circumstances I was handed, but we're going to figure it out. We're not just going to sit there and wallow in the fact that, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. I've been laid off twice. Like, woe is me. No, you're figuring it out. And in the process, you just seem like you're so much more fulfilled and fueled.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I will say, I mean, talk about fulfillment. I was talking earlier about what success looked like to me back then, and it was tied to like the monetary gains and the titles, but it didn't do anything for me. And I will say, since starting my podcast, I actually started my podcast last year, even before my layoff, because that was the first step that I took in my entrepreneurial journey. But I will say, being able to start something like this and do it because like I enjoy it and it's something that I'm passionate about has been the most fulfilling and rewarding thing I've ever done. And I am not monetizing my podcast. So it just shows me that the monetary gains wasn't what was really fulfilling me moving forward. Yes, it was able to provide me a really nice lifestyle, but it wasn't filling me up. And I think that that's really what life is about. It's about enjoyment. It's about embracing the journey. And I wasn't doing that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good because as a society, yeah, we do tend to tie success to money. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important that we take the time to step back and really truly ask ourselves, what does success look like to me? Because I'm the same way. It's not about the money. It's about the experience of life because guess what? I can't buy this point in my life back. This time with my kids, this time with my spouse. We're banking on this future that's not guaranteed in retirement. We think that, okay, one day, then I'll take the trip. One day, then I'll build the house. One day, yes, you need to plan. I'm not saying just throw, cash into the wind and live extravagantly, but really ask yourself, what does success look like to you? And honestly, like once I dug in and asked myself that question, I had so much more clarity as to, okay, this is the direction I want my business to go. This is how I want to run my business because that's the beautiful part. As entrepreneurs, we get to call the shots. We get to design a business however we want to make it look.
Exactly. And for me, like the success is no longer like the monetary rewards, or I mean, that would be nice, don't get me
Sure.
wrong, because it does provide you a nice life and options. But it is tied to being able to be like it's tied to time, there we go. Time freedom. I can get it out there. And being present for my family, being able to take my son to future doctor appointments and activities whenever I need to, and just be home instead of traveling or being on the road. It's being present and enjoying the now rather than, oh, I'll get to it someday.
I'm interrupting this episode to share an incredible networking opportunity that happens every single Monday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Join us for coffee talk and meet and collaborate with other mompreneurs just like you. Networking has grown my business by leaps and bounds, and I would love to share this opportunity with you. All the details can be found in our show notes. Now back to the show. Yeah, exactly. Because when we're stuck in that someday thinking, we miss this beautiful journey along the way. And I think it's really sad how much we get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that you blink and it's like, what just happened? Even looking
Exactly.
back at like the last 10 years of my life, I'm like, oh my gosh, like where did that go? It's just so crazy how fast time flies.
Totally. But the point I think that I was experiencing before, the reason why I didn't start is because I mentioned this, but I thought I had to have it all figured out. And I think that as women, especially, we want these things. However, we're afraid to go for them because we don't think that we're qualified potentially. We don't think that we have it all figured out. We're comparing ourselves to people's highlight reels online, and the reality is everyone's figuring it out. No one has it perfect. And I think that really the biggest thing for me to be able to take that step is finally just making the decision to do it messy, to realize that I'm never going to have it all figured out, and that was okay with me. But what was not okay with me was living the life that I was continuing to live and ignoring what I was really wanting. So I think just taking the risk, doing it messy was so much more rewarding than never starting in the first place.
Yeah, and that can be really hard to do at first. When you're used to being such a perfectionist, I know I was, that I finally got to the point where if I didn't do it messy, I wouldn't be doing it at all because I would get in such a place of comparison and in my head thinking that it had to be perfect because as society goes, we're always seeking that external validation from others. That, like you said, we're looking at others' highlight reels and thinking that that's reality. The reality is nobody has it all figured out. And that's the beautiful part because think about it. If this world was absolutely perfect, like that'd be boring, don't you think?
Oh, so boring. I like the authentic nature of things. I like when people are showing up just raw and messy and just sharing it how it is, like no makeup on, no filter, just being themselves, because that's relatable. That's life.
Right. And it's so much easier then when
Yes.
you're just showing up as you. You're not then having to expend the energy trying to be someone or something that you're not. It's exhausting.
Right. And the world needs more of you.
Exactly. And that's, I think, where a lot of times we hold ourselves back is that we're trying to constantly be someone that we're not. We're trying to fit in and do what everybody else is doing. But our authenticity, that's our superpower. That's what's going to draw people in towards us and attract our clients to us. And just being ourselves, being our quirky selves. And that is the biggest, biggest piece of advice I always like to tell fellow entrepreneurs is just be you. It can be scary at first, but again, I think it's ego kind of getting in the way. It's that fear of judgment of others. And it's like, at the end of the day, does it really matter what they think? No, because this is your life to live.
Definitely. I was actually scrolling through the gram this morning and Kathy Heller posted a reel on Instagram. And it was basically saying that there's going to be people that don't like you. The
Right.
sooner that you realize that, the better off that you're going to be because you're not going to be made for everyone. And that's okay. So just embrace it, be you and be authentic. And you're going to be so much happier in life if you can just show up as yourself and stop worrying about what everyone else thinks about you.
Right. And it takes practice though, don't you
Oh,
think? Like
yes.
for me, like it wasn't that one day I just woke up and I'm like, I don't care what everybody thinks about me. Da 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 da. No, it's still like nerve wracking. You see somebody like absolutely crushing it on social, and then that comparison mode kicks in. But I think just having that awareness is so
Oh, yeah,
key going, wait a minute, again, it's a story. This is just a story that I'm telling myself. This isn't necessarily reality. I'm just going to
exactly.
keep showing up as me because you are so right. I'm not going to be for everyone. I don't want to be for everyone. Just like, when I work with a client that's just not a good fit, I am the first person to be like, hey, I know someone that could better serve you. And that wasn't easy to do at first. But, now I've learned how to qualify people much better. You definitely learn as you're going, but realizing I'm not going to be for everyone and everyone's not going to be for me. That's powerful.
Oh, it is. I would like to say that I'm a recovering people pleaser, but let's
Oh,
be honest,
same.
like I don't know if I'm ever going to be fully recovered from that because
Right.
it's so ingrained in who I am.
Yeah.
So it is constantly a struggle. But I really liked what you were talking about too, about using it in your business too, because I mean, I mentioned I come from a corporate sales background and you do have to qualify your business because there is going to be business that's good business for you. And there's also going to be business that's maybe bad business for you. And I think when, as a business owner, especially, and as an entrepreneur, I know this is a little bit of a topic change, but at the beginning, you're so eager to get all of this new business. So you might be saying yes, yes, yes to everything. But in reality, like sometimes it's good to say no. And what I liked about what you said is that you still recommended them to someone else. So you're still serving in some capacity. And I think that actually brings you more abundance in the long term by really just going in with that mentality that I'm not going to be for everyone. However, this person might be better suited for someone else, and what comes around goes around. Really having that like glasses half full abundance mentality here.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because let's face it, scarcity mindset, it's going to be there. It's
Mhm.
there to keep us safe. It's just how our brain works. But when you truly flip the switch and develop that emotional intelligence to realize like no, there is so much abundance out there in this world. It's like the air around us. There's no shortage of air. That the possibilities are endless when you just seek to serve and really learn to say no to those fits that just aren't aligned with your morals, values, or just, don't feel right. And that's okay.
I love that analogy that it's like air.
Yeah,
There's endless amounts around you. I haven't heard that before, and I'm definitely going to steal that from you.
absolutely. Please
Yes.
do.
I will. No, but I couldn't agree more with you. There's plenty to go around for everyone. And like what we were talking about earlier, like the world needs more of you. So just put yourself out there, be authentic, go for what you want. Because if you don't, then you're just going to always wonder what if. And personally, for me, I didn't want to have that feeling.
Oh, so, so good. Megan, thank you so much for just being such an inspiration, for leading the way for so many that are stuck in their 9 to 5s right now, going, I just know I'm meant for more, but I'm scared. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to show up. Thank you for this conversation. It was amazing. Where can we learn more about you and get into your world?
Oh, well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to show up and to connect with all of your listeners. I mean, having a podcast of my own, it's just such a true honor to be invited onto someone else's. So it means more than you know. But my podcast is called StartHer, and it's SELFSTARTHER. So adding a little bit of a feminine element to it. And the premise behind the Self-Starter podcast is where I am interviewing women who have left the corporate world to be able to step into a life of entrepreneurism and really lead the life that they really wanted to live. So the goal is to be able to help inspire other women to know what's possible if they also kind of take that bet on themselves. So you can find me over there on anywhere that the podcasts are, wherever you listen to podcasts. You also can find me on my website, selfstarter.com. I have a couple freebies to help if you're someone listening and you're wanting to transition out of corporate into a life of entrepreneurism. I have a couple different freebies that you're welcome to grab there. Social channels, Instagram, selfstart.her. And I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So that's just my name, Megan Tobler. So there's all the places for you.
I love it. Please get into Megan's world, listen to her podcast, and she is just such a wealth of knowledge. Megan, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to pour into our listeners today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Amy. I've had so much fun today.
Yes, same here. And until next time, stop dreaming and start taking messy action. You've got this. Are you loving what you're hearing? Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode.